pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have started this evening with the approval of prior town board meeting minutes. Any comments, corrections?
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We have a budget workshop minutes too.
Thank you very much. We also have our budget workshop meetings for September 22nd. Do we have any comments, corrections?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
You guys are quick today.
Okay, we're going to move on to written communications to the board. Let's start with the clerk's report. You want to start with your report first, please?
Town Clerk's Report, September 2014. Zoning Board of Appeals for zoning ordinance, $25. Dog licensing fees, $20. Building permits, $225. Certificates of occupancy, $75. Town clerk fees for vital statistics, $62. Decals fishing license, $19.40. Miscellaneous, $27. And solid waste fees, $2. Total check for general fund, $455.40. For trust and agency, for inspection fees, $200. Paid to the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, dog surcharges, $8. Paid to the Columbia County Treasurer for solid waste fees, $28. Paid to New York State decals for fishing and hunting, $332.60. So the total for September was $1,024.
Thank you, Mary. Motion to accept clerk's report.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Mail review. What do we have?
Next one will be the last.
Okay.
This is a letter received via email to Supervisor Stats. To the Clermont Town Board, it saddens me deeply to have to resign my position of town councilman. I have not fulfilled my obligation to the full term which presses against my character of delivering that of which I have promised. Between the bleak economic condition of New York State and the actions of malicious people who self-appointed themselves to control our children and deny me the money which is mine from joint business ventures, I am left with no choice but to resign and relocate to North Carolina for my children's spiritual and economic sake. These people's actions have sealed the decision for me. My family comes first. As a lifelong resident of Clermont, most of you should know that I speak freely my mind, giving credit where credit is due, rebuke where it is due, and humbly receive the same as needed for my actions as well. My tenure while serving the board has been a positive experience. I would like to mention that the members of the board are a tremendous asset to Clermont, that this town should feel blessed to have such servants to serve it. The board worked tirelessly to cut costs, resulting in the lowest taxes in the county, remain transparent, preserve freedoms, and listen to the people to consider their will in all decisions along with listening to each other. The board has worked as true public servants that other towns should emulate. At the helm of the board, Supervisor Stats has given his undivided attention to guide the board to work efficiently. His work as supervisor should be recognized not only for Clermont, but more importantly to Columbia County as well. His voice at the county level is the most conservative, logical voice on the county board. With the departure of Supervisor Garrett from Gallatin, who worked closely with him at the county, he is a lone voice in the wilderness. Clermont needs to wholly support Supervisor Stats not only for itself, but for the county as well. The heritage of Columbia County that I enjoyed is at a precipice of being lost. Supervisor Stats has asked me if I have recommendations to fill my seat. I would highly recommend Luke Comboris for the position, as his positions closely reflect my positions that the people have elected me to represent. I would like to share my parting thoughts for the board. The most powerful and influential part of our government is contained in the least recognized position, the town board. It is the closest governing body to the people. It has power of home rule law which should not be overlooked. The town board not only has a responsibility to its town, but to the county as well, then trickling down to the state and then the federal government. It has the power to pass laws and resolutions which have an impact of at least making a unified statement to the country around it that defines the will and power of a group of people, which in turn may be supported by other communities as well. Excuse me, unifying them as a whole. I encourage the board to consider passing resolutions and laws that identify freedom and prosperity, even if it defies federal or state laws that in many instances are unconstitutional. The Constitution is a living document if the breath of life is breathed into it by using it. It is a simple document designed for all of us to understand. We don't need a Supreme Court to interpret, or shall we say, reinterpret it for its purposes. Put Clermont on the map by standing for freedom and prosperity. Stand alone and become a beacon of light. Make a difference for our country's sake and uphold the Constitution. There is no financial future in New York State, and it will continue to decline. The Empire State is no more. New York State has the largest mass exodus of people from a state in United States history. The reason why New York State was redistricted, the tyrants in Albany have made it literally impossible to have conservative change, economic prosperity, and freedom in New York State because the New York State Constitution has been carefully crafted to impoverish the good people of New York State and elevate the elite who use the New York State government to their interests. It's been this way since Boss Tweed. The system needs to fail completely and be rebuilt by the people in order to prosper economically and in freedom. Freedom delivers prosperity and safety, while restrictions deliver poverty and crime. When the people of New York State give up their freedom in the name of security, they have given up both. New York State has an aging infrastructure to support with less people and with less businesses that have been pushed out of New York State, whom the state actually tries to pay with taxpayer dollars to stay or come. Certainly a foolish business idea. The climate should automatically create a desire for businesses to come and thrive without a proven failed lure. New York State has an aging population, the second highest utility costs, the highest taxes, the highest loss of civil freedoms, as an ever-increasing entitlement system that is not even presently sustainable, uncontrollable, unfunded mandates pushed onto the backs of taxpayers to support against their will. New York State has become a police state with the second highest paid and one of the largest state police forces in the United States, defending the governor's whims of his convoluted interpretation of law against the Constitution, and has been pitted against the New York State Sheriff, which is the only elected law enforcement and highest law enforcement in the United States, defending the people's rights by upholding the Constitution as their master. Make no mistake, New York State has plans of destroying this powerful, protect full branch of our law enforcement that has its roots from the time of the Magna Carta. New York State has a political party system that gives the illusion of multiple parties when the reality is the Republicans and Democrats are one and the same, and conservative rally really isn't conservative anymore by historical standards, and green and working families is really a goal of one-minded slavery, etc. The list goes on and on. New York State is a ship that has sunk, and unless the people rise to the occasion and defend the Constitution by saying no and standing firm, even if it means civil disobedience, nothing will change for the good of the people, and the elite will be more empowered and ever controlling to the destruction of the people. This board needs to embrace this. The next generation deserves this. It really has come down to us against them. The responsibilities of the board are larger than just paying bills, building playgrounds, and ensuring daily activities run smoothly. This board represents leadership. It needs to lead by example. In the words of John F. Kennedy, Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This board needs to carry on the good work it has done and pass that torch on to the next. Be an example to other towns across the state and win back the Empire State status. Don't make the word change doublespeak. Define change for freedom and prosperity for the people by making an example of a government for the people, by the people. I know many feel I'm radical and this is all radical talk. I ask you though, was Jefferson radical? Franklin, Washington? God forbid. Being radical is like fire. It can be your best friend, heat, light, cooking, or your worst nightmare. Death, destruction, it all depends on how it's used. Do the same with radical. I pray to God you will. I will sorely miss being part of the community I grew up in and serving the board with all of you. Farewell, Councilman Edward Hill.
Thank you, Mary, for reading all 3 pages of that. We certainly appreciate Councilman McHale's work on the board. Obviously, as his letter stated, he had to move, but he certainly was appreciated here. Not always did we agree with his views, but we were certainly glad to have the discussion and come to a decision from the board. So, he will be missed. He did a lot to help the town, and I'm sure everybody that supported him will miss him as well. But we certainly appreciate everything he's done over the years, the past 3 years. I'll be talking about a little bit later about his resignation again, as far as interviewing to fill that position. There will be a board appointment until the following year, which is next November, when the term is up. And then there'll be, whoever we appoint will have to run for that position again. It will be a temporary appointment, but we'll go over that again. Thank you again, Mayor. Mail review, what else do we have in there?
Okay.
Okay.
Our assessor, Cheryl Kazluga, has completed all of her schooling and she is waiting now for her certification. She did receive a letter from Real Property, New York State Real Property, to that effect, that she did pass her most recent class that she took.
Great, excellent.
Okay, and then we received from New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, Pine Plains Vet Association, that's who we have an agreement with to take our dogs for those that are new here. One that might be picked up by our animal control officer. They inspect the facilities every year or randomly, I'm not exactly sure, but they got a very good report from Ag and Markets that everything is in order. Excellent paperwork, they said also.
Which they receive just about every year, if I remember.
Yeah, they're very good, yes. And then our animal control officer, Desiree Weber, she also had a visit by the Department of Ag and Markets, and she also got a very good report. And they cover a lot of things, the equipment, how they're transported and held, a lot of different things. And she got a good report too. Okay, and then on the table in the back, Elderly Express from the Columbia County Office for the Aging, their newsletter for fall and winter. So if you need a copy, pick one up if you want one. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
We'll move on to correspondence for the web committee. Do we have any comments, suggestions? Any update on the web committee?
There was no comments that came in as far as I'm aware. The new method for the videos seems to be working well. We're getting them up the same week that the board meets, so I forget the day. I think it was probably Thursday last month. And other updates, there's an update for the Election Day dinner on November 4th.
Right.
That's on the website, and also the exemption report for 2014.
Excellent. Do we take care of that for the online tax bills also? We have a link set up? Or?
We do have a link set up that was done, I think, the month before.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Do you have any indication of how many people are using that?
There is statistics. I can't bring them up off the top of my head.
Okay.
The video page, which we've had out there for, what is it, 3 years now, something like that?
Several years, at least.
That has a total of 8,000 views over that period, so it's not a tremendous number, but that's more than the residents in Columbia County, Clermont. I want to say it's maybe between 400 and 800 a month might hit the page,
Okay.
something like that.
That's good, excellent.
That's more than I expected.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people don't get Germantown Tel, that they're in Clermont, so it's hard to see the meeting, so it is available online if anybody's interested, certainly be able to pull it up and watch the full town board meeting, so, great, thank you. Okay, committee reports, let's move on, Bob?
Yeah, the big thing I want to report this month is the swings are done in. People have been using them. And a friend of mine said they went by and saw 4 people, all 4 swings are being used at once at one point. I did see somebody shooting baskets and the kid on the swings. And I've heard other people say that they're being used as well.
Good.
So I think that's good. Our plan eventually is to try and put some additional playground equipment there, but probably not the coming year. I think it would be good for us to let that fall surface, which I don't know if everybody's aware, we put in an expensive fall surface with its rubberized tile, which is different than a lot of places use wood chips and pea gravel. We had a lot of discussion on that. We think it's going to be very effective, but I would like to see it go over the winter, over the summer, to see what, if it works well, and then the second winter before we put in another one. So I'd hate to get, eventually we've got 3 spots. We want to have a playground equipment for 2 to 5 and playground equipment for 5 to 12, plus the swings. And I would hate to get 3 of those expensive surfaces in and then find out that it was a mistake.
Mhm.
So I think we'll let it ride a little bit and see. But I'd like to recognize Stats Contracting and the Highway Department spent a lot of time and volunteer time and work on that project as well. And it was a long time coming. It was several months, and putting in the border and the fall surface and pouring the concrete for the swings, but it's done. It's being used. So that's the bottom line. One thing that in talking with Jimmy Potts, who the Highway Department does a lot of work for us on the grounds, and that he was mentioning that he thought we should try and get a couple of picnic tables in soon. Maybe some inexpensive ones that people can use in the time being, because eventually we'd like to put a few more in and some trees, but that probably won't come until next season, next year. But I'd like to have the board approve tonight, I don't know if you want to put it under new business or you want to mention it now, but maybe
We can do it right now.
a couple, I'll move that we buy a couple of inexpensive picnic tables, not to exceed $500 in total cost. And Jimmy indicated he was going to look around and see if he could find some.
The question I have is whether they would get used before it gets too cold.
Jimmy thought that they would get used through November. And after November, they'll probably take the swings down for the winter anyway. And the idea was to get something inexpensive that would then also be there early in the spring. They'll put them under the shed for the winter and put them back out in early spring, and then eventually sometime over the course of the coming year, we'll buy some additional ones, maybe more longer lasting. But we'd like to get an idea if they're going to be used on a regular basis. And also, if they end up missing, then we know then we're going to have to pour a concrete pad and take them down. So we'd like to get a little history on that as well. So, but again, we must spend a lot of money on them this year.
Right. Okay. I hadn't thought that people would do a picnic at this time, but if they do, more power to them.
It's not as much a picnic as if somebody brings their kids there and they've got 2 or 3 kids swinging and they don't want to just stand and watch. They'd like to sit.
Good
So they
point,
sit at the table, or they might bring lunch to, while the kids are swinging too.
So we think we can get 2 tables, so $250 a picnic table? That's pretty inexpensive.
Jimmy was talking about $100, $150 at wooden tables that are made locally. We probably eventually will buy some that are more expensive than that in the future.
Okay. Well, we have a motion.
Make a motion to approve it.
Motion, and a second.
Second.
Just to identify the parks line, 7110.41, to take the expenditure out of up to $500 for 2 tables. We have $5,000 balance in there.
The other thing,
All in favor?
sorry.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The other thing, Mary mentioned that Desiree had a good report. Now, she had been talking about getting a scanner to be able to scan the chips that dog, if she picks up a dog. And I think there's money in her budget. I don't know, do we need to, can she just go ahead and spend that, or do we need to have a motion to let her do that?
There's money in her budget, I would just like to have an estimate of what she's getting, so we just have it run by us. I mean, you know, we did budget the money for it, it's in there. What is that, like a couple $100 is not much, right?
I think so. Did she say, Mary, on Saturday? She said?
250, I think.
She can spend up to
is
$500,
And
so-
she has that in this year's.
So she can go ahead and
She
buy
didn't
that.
use
She
it.
can go ahead and buy that,
Okay,
under $500,
okay.
it's in the budget, yes.
We can check with her and see if that's what she.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, that's it.
That's it? Okay. Evan, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, nothing else.
Okay. Chris?
No, just curious though, does anyone know if that flagpole lamp is up yet, or is that still waiting?
It's in the process.
It's not,
Actually, I was more curious to how it got up there than anyone, but yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
Well, Jimmy looked at it, not gonna be able to put a ladder up on that pole for safety reasons.
Right.
So he's asked that Germantown Telephone Company come out and help us out.
Oh, that'd be
And
great.
I guess they agreed that they would be able to do that, and they help us out quite often on different things.
Yeah.
So they go out there with them, put it up.
Okay.
It's in the process, I don't know when it's scheduled, but it's in the works.
as of Friday, it wasn't up yet. He said
Yeah,
that
as of
they-
today, it wasn't where I saw it today, in
Okay.
the highway garage.
Jimmy said that they had been over once and he wasn't here or something, but he expects that.
Yeah, and certainly at their leisure when they can get here, it's not, something
Right,
they're asking to make a
right.
trip for, so, but yes. And thank you for taking care of that, I see that it's in the vouchers tonight, so thank you for getting that.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, move on to old business. First, before we get to the bridge, I just have, I want to mention, we received the piano, which we talked about last month about the old piano. We did receive the funds for the piano, $200, so that did come in. So we received it, so they're going to take care of refinishing it and work on the piano, doing whatever they want to, but we obviously received the money and we did sell it to them, so that's done. Okay, bridge update. Just to let everybody know, let the board know, as of last Public Works meeting, the resolution for the bridge, Bingham's Mill Bridge to go through was pulled because there was a lot of residents, and there was a petition circulated that was trying to keep the bridge closed. They wanted, the county board felt it was important to hear these people, let them have a voice, and determine at that point, are we going to proceed with this or not? So as of right now, it's been pulled. We're going to bring it back up this next Public Works meeting for another discussion to go forward if we're going to move forward. They did ask that the 3 towns appeal to the boards, see what the boards actually want to do, if they support it fully with the boards, Germantown, Clermont, Livingston. So they're waiting to hear from them as well. So that's where we stand at this point. I know we have a lot of residents here tonight from various Livingston and Clermont, I know. They're here to support the bridge staying closed. And I'm going to let at least 1 or 2 of the group speak and express their views on this so we can hear their side of it. They were also allowed to speak at the county board, at the county public works meeting. And we certainly welcome the comment. We'd like to hear from you, hear your thoughts. And if you have 1 or 2 people that are prepared to speak, we'd like to actually allow it now instead of making it wait till the end. Okay. Stop it there, so. Yeah. I gave everybody a copy of that already.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, before we got here, yeah. That's the one you sent me. Yeah.
So my name's Michael Hamilton, and I live on Mill Road just on the other side of the bridge on the Livingston side. And before I start, I want to say that Supervisor Stats, I know you've been working on this a long time, putting in a lot of effort and time and working toward what you think is the right thing to do, and that's not lost on me or anybody else, and we thank you for that, even though we disagree with it. Another thing I'm going to say before I start is I'm going to mention the cost of the bridge in here, and partly for the sake of expediency, I'm going to say $1 million, because that's faster than saying $600,000 to $700,000 plus engineering fees and other associated costs. And partly because I'm a little cynical, I'll admit, and I've been in the construction industry for 25 years, and it's a rare project that comes in at the pre-design cost estimate. So I'm not going to be shocked if that cost rises up toward $1 million. So when I say $1 million, please take it with a grain of salt. You can translate that to any number you want in your own mind. So I've been kind of informally nominated by a group of people on Mill Road and Bingham Mills Road, both sides of the bridge, to speak on behalf of all of us in opposition to the bridge. The people who live nearest the bridge are the people who are most affected by it, for good or bad, advantages, disadvantages, bridge or no bridge. We're the people who are most affected by it. And so please listen to us, take us seriously, and that's all we're asking. We've all been thinking about this bridge since the day it closed. I know I have. And frankly, I didn't know what I thought when it closed. I didn't have an opinion. I could see there were advantages and disadvantages here. And I had to live with it for a while before I came around to really thinking that it's better this way. And not just better for me, better all around. I've got my reasons for why I want the bridge to remain closed. But at some time during the course of this past few years, I realized that my reasons are irrelevant. So I'm not even going to say what they are. There are reasons that people want the bridge to be opened. I should say, I think my reasons are valid, but I still think they're irrelevant to this discussion and to your decision. There are reasons that people want the bridge to be opened. There are reasons that people want the bridge to remain closed. All valid reasons, I would say, the ones that I've heard, with the exception of the shortcut, which is a 0.6 of a mile shortcut that amounts to something like 16 seconds of driving time, provided you don't confront another car coming from the opposite direction on that one-lane bridge, in which case you can kiss your time savings goodbye. So I don't think that's a valid reason for building a bridge. So I say my reasons are irrelevant because the bottom line here is really, do we need that bridge? And I hope that's the bottom line that you guys are thinking about as you consider this. Do we need the bridge, and are the benefits of the bridge going to justify the cost? I haven't heard anything to convince me that we need the bridge or that the benefits are going to justify that price tag. So there are a lot of issues out there, and discussing it with this group, we sort of believe that all those issues can be addressed or solved without building a bridge. We don't need to build a bridge to solve the school bus issue on the Clermont side, partly thanks to the Fingers who have offered to donate their portion of their land and a turnaround down there. We don't need to build a bridge to solve the zoning issues. I'm confident that our town planning and zoning boards can, both Livingston and Clermont, can come up with a way to protect the development rights of those landowners in a way that's sensible and equitable and does not involve building a bridge. I know we can do that, it's not that hard. We don't need to build a bridge to get a handful of households about 2.5 minutes closer to an ambulance service, when those houses are already, even with that extra 2.5 minutes, they're already very close to the two ambulance points out there on Route 9 and to the 2 firehouses. We're lucky on Mill Road that we live quite close to those emergency services, much closer than other people around the county. We don't need to build a bridge for the added redundancy in the case of an emergency on Route 9. I bring this up because one of the Livingston Town Board members brought it up as a concern. We've got redundancy on Buckwheat Bridge, which is a 2-lane bridge. I think it'd be crazy to reroute emergency traffic over a 1-lane bridge. Doesn't make sense to me. We've got that redundancy. How much redundancy do we need? And as I said, we certainly don't need to build a bridge for a 16-second shortcut. Now, there's another issue, another kind of an emergency access safety issue that Mr. Desmond brought up. You came and spoke at Livingston's town meeting last month. I was there, I heard you speak. And I appreciate hearing what you had to say. You were describing a scenario, and I don't want to misquote you, but it was something like, if there's an accident that causes a road closure, the mill road closure,
Right.
and a fire,
Or a fire.
or a fire.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were describing a scenario where something was keeping an emergency access vehicle to getting through to, because there's only that one access
Yeah,
point.
you're right, it would be it would be an emergency, whether it's an ambulance or a fire truck required further in, and the road is closed at the end.
Right.
Yeah, so it could be in that case.
So, okay, I have to say, I think that's a long shot that might happen. Could it happen? Yeah, it could happen. And what you're talking about, I think, is kind of a one-time event. There are safety issues, well, when the bridge is open, there are safety issues there daily and nightly. For example, on the Livingston side, the Red Hook school bus makes a 3-point turn on the road. They did it before the bridge was closed. They've always done it. 4 times a day, twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon. School bus making a 3-point turn on the road. It's much safer for that bus to make the turn around now than it is when there's traffic coming from both directions. So that's a safety concern. But, so I think that although the scenario you described could happen, would I be responsible to bet $1 million on that ever happening? I don't think so. But having said that, we sort of think there's a solution to that too, without building a bridge, which is to leave the bridge as a pedestrian, bicycle access, and also occasional emergency use. And I've heard just in the past few days of a couple of precedents around, even within the county, maybe.
Up in Clermont. The bridge that comes out of Clermont onto 23, that's been closed for quite some time. They had opened it up. Scoop Rock Road, yeah.
So apparently there's a way to have bollards or something that either get pushed down in the case of an emergency or picked up and moved in the case of an emergency, that they can use the bridge for occasional access without building a new bridge, because presumably these bridges aren't perhaps structured for everyday constant traffic, but they can be, it seems like maybe it's an upgrade that might be cost effective.
Well, if I understand what you're saying, you have a bridge that's unsafe for cars, but you want to let first responders and vehicles that are heavier than cars go over it occasionally.
Well, I didn't say it's unsafe for cars. And
That's what the state says, that's why it's closed.
well, okay. I'm not an engineer or but I'm just saying that it seems that this has been done out there, and these things are designed and analyzed in many ways too. So I might be stating it incorrectly, but they're doing it, and it's something to look into. So we just think that, as I said, the bottom line is, do we need it? I'm still not convinced we need that bridge to reopen the traffic. And it seems like that money, whatever number it is, could be put to better use on other projects around the county. There are plenty of roads, County Route 31, County Route, I think it's 16 that I drive on almost every day through Hollowville is a disaster. Plenty of roads that need work, where that money could be perhaps spread around in a more effective way. Mill Road and that bridge, Ted did a lot of research on the DOT information about how many cars actually use the roads, the area roads around here. Mill Road, when the bridge is open, it's only something like 400 cars a day. The other roads, and I won't get these numbers right, but they're on the order of 10 times that, 4,000, 5,000 cars a day. 14,000, thanks.
14,731.
So it just seems like a low priority to open this bridge to through traffic, to make that road to be used in a way that it was never intended to be used. You know, when that bridge is open, it was never built to be a thoroughfare like County Route 8 is. So I'll just say it again, please hear what we're saying, take it seriously, and consider a more, for lack of a better word, cost-effective solution to that problem than building a new bridge. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to say something in regards to the bridge? I don't really have time for everybody to speak, but if anybody else would like to say a couple more few words?
Regarding the bridge,
You just stand up to the podium for a thing. State your name from here. I know she knows who you are, but
J. Ryan Anderson, I live on Mill Road.
thank you.
Just to reiterate what he said about the bridge, I'm not sure, because I talked to a couple contractors locally. One was actually doing the County 19 bridge, and he brought it up to me as a pedestrian, bicycle, emergency vehicle, and slow-moving maintenance vehicles can travel across the bridge. I'm not saying that the bridge right now as it stands could hold an emergency vehicle, I don't know. But at the cost of maybe ripping up part of the bridge or the foundation or the roadway that goes over it to make it stronger, so maybe the emergency vehicles can cross it. I'm not saying spend $1 million. Why spend $1 million if we can spend $400,000 or $200,000 or whatever it is to, strengthen the bridge so emergency vehicles can cross it. And again, it would only be, I think the last time I saw, I can't remember when, well, about 3 weeks ago, they had a fire call at a residential house, and the fire truck came down, and like I said, it handled the situation. It turned around in my driveway, and it left. Safety reasons, I don't buy it, but again, if you think of something that the people who want the bridge closed and the people who want it open, I think we keep the bridge for, like I said, you can open it up for emergency traffic. Something happens on a road, you got a detour, you got to detour cars, they can cross it. You're not talking about 100 cars, probably about 5 or 6 cars to the, whether it be an accident or whatever. But, have we looked into that? Is there?
I can't say as we have. The only thing I'd just like to ask you quick, you said maybe you spend $200,000, $400,000 if it could fix it up for emergency traffic.
Right.
The first option we looked at was about $500,000 to redo the bridge with the existing steel and structures the way they are. So what you're saying is that you'd be willing to say we could spend $400,000 to fix it, which $500,000 would open it up, but it would only guarantee for about 20 years.
Well,
We would open it up for full traffic with $500,000, but we opted to look at the full replacement to get a 50 or 60-year value out of it for $700 and some thousand. So
like he said, it's like a bid amendments, if you bid $650 and they come in and say, well, we ran into this problem, we ran into this problem, we ran into this problem. Next thing you know, you're looking at 1.2, 1.3 million. Who knows? Who's picking up that tab? Can you guarantee that my taxes aren't going to go up because of a bridge that didn't need to be built?
I can never guarantee taxes. I wish I had more control in the county to prevent taxes from going up. But what I can guarantee is if this bridge is built or it's not built, you will not see any difference in your taxes because there's about 50 bridges on the list which will never ever catch up with the infrastructure the way it is that need attention. What if it's for replacement, fixing? Yes, I guess I agree with your argument. You could spend this money somewhere else. It will not affect the taxes no matter what we do, up or down, because of the fact there's so many things that need attention. If this bridge was to stay closed and we could knock the tax rate down, I definitely see more of an argument to say, listen, I could actually fight for that. But knowing that this is not going to change anything, our town infrastructure is going to continue to deteriorate. Other towns are just going to benefit, get a bridge built. And believe me, 400 cars is about the average car use on a back road or a town road throughout the county. So it's not like it's a real low usage. 400 cars is about the average, is what the engineers told me out of the county. So, I don't want to debate it. I certainly agree and can't fault any of you for being here and arguing this fact because I would probably rather be on a dead end myself. I understand your views. I hope you understand my views because every person I've talked to since this has come up with a big issue in the county, out of probably 25 people that I don't normally ask this question, I asked them what they thought about the bridge being opened. And a lot of them were from Germantown. I will say a lot of them from Germantown. They all told me that they would like it open.
Did they give a reason why?
Because they're used to using it, they like to use that road. I didn't ask, it's just because of the shortcut, but again, everybody that I've asked is saying that they would like it open. And I've heard from a lot of people from Clermont as well, and Livingston. I've had a lot of people from Livingston as well. So I've heard quite a bit of support in opening it. but I certainly
I
understand.
also have heard a number of people.
And Bob has talked to several amount.
Guys,
Sure, go ahead.
glad to get up there.
Yeah, please.
A lot has been said about using for emergency services, and you said, well, the question in my mind is, do you have the information, the report from the DOT that actually tells you if there's a weight limit on it as of now? Because a lot of those bridges are considered structurally deficient, but are safe to drive on, lowering the weight limit. Now, I mean, we're talking about a bridge, and I haven't heard anything about if the bridge can carry. What weight, what is the condition of the bridge?
The bridge
Really-
is very poor, and I have to tell you, I've inspected with the engineer, with the with the head of the county engineering department.
But what did they
You can
classify?
actually put your hands through the steel members underneath the girders that run across the frame.
Or what did they classify?
I'd have to read through here to get that, but I know it's been shut down. It already had a low weight rating anyway because of the way it was
Because I've
designed.
never seen a weight limit go down on that bridge.
But I'd have to read through here to get to that information. But it is in this report from
Is it?
Department of Judas. We do have all the specs on the bridge, and the reasons why it was closed, and the actual estimates for the replacement and costs in here as well. So that's why I do have the numbers, the exact numbers, if everybody's really
Is
interested.
it possible for vehicle traffic, or you're saying, are you not sure?
You know what, I'd have to check with them. I don't know if they shut it down because of
Well,
deterioration of the steel members. I
Right.
don't know what it can hold exactly
Right.
at this point. If they can.
because a lot of bridges are classified deficient. But that doesn't mean they're not unsafe to drive on. And I'm not saying that this one, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to find out. Because I heard a lot of things, but you know, usually when a bridge gets weaker, they'll post this weight limit. And I think that weight limit on that bridge was unlimited at one time, wasn't it? I mean, you could drive anything over it, basically.
Right.
That's what I heard.
There's
See,
no
that's again
sign
what I
that says
heard.
otherwise.
Huh?
If it's unposted, it's legal limit. If it's unposted, supposedly. But
Yeah.
again, I don't
They
know.
usually lower the weight limit, and that never happened. It was just one day, boom, that
I
was it. So I
think
was
if that
curious.
was an option, they would have done it, but I think it was, since it was red flag, I think it was deteriorated to the point where they had to close it. Believe me, they would have lowered it and kept it open if they could have.
Is there any way we could find out, or you could report back to us?
I could certainly inquire from the engineering department.
Because that would save a lot of money. Let's say if they did decide to leave the bridge as is, they wouldn't have to pay to knock it down. It could be used for a bicycle path and walking, pedestrian, and emergency vehicle. I'm not saying, I don't know what the condition is. I haven't really heard from the data. I haven't seen the data on the bridge, what the engineer's saying. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, anybody else? One more person, if anybody else really wants to speak on this? No? Okay. I just would like to say again, I appreciate everybody and your opinions on this. I certainly understand your argument, and I certainly hope you understand where I'm coming from, because I have no personal gain in this. I don't actually use this road very often, but I certainly have heard from enough people where it's been brought to my attention that the majority of the people I've talked to would like to see this open, and that's what I'm fighting for. And, I know it's not a popular decision in this room, but I just hope everybody understands my opinion on this and where I'm coming from.
I have one quick thing to say.
Sure. Last comment.
Last comment. Ted Sod, I live on Bingham Mills. I just want to say that even if we want to look at this bridge and it should be open, that there's a lot of people who want the bridge open, there are 7,500 cars that go down 31. And 31 is in horrible condition. So we're satisfying the needs of 400, whether you want it or you don't want it. We're taking the 400 people over the needs of 7,500 people, and I think that's more our argument rather than do we live on a dead-end road, is that we're satisfying the need of a very few number of people where the county has so many roads, 31 you can't even drive down. So instead of fixing a bridge for $1 million, I would rather see Route 31 that services a lot more people be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay, again, I appreciate everybody coming out. We would really actually like to have an audience. We haven't had too much of an audience lately, but I appreciate everybody coming out and voicing your opinion on this. And, again, we'll consider the comments we've heard, but from the majority of the comments I've heard, I have to keep pushing forward on this, and I just hope everybody understands.
Does the town vote on a resolution to go further, our town?
We,
Town board?
We did quite a
Because I
while
didn't see
back.
any, Yeah, I didn't see it in the last month's minutes.
No, it was last year, 2 years ago, when the bridge was
Okay.
first closed,
That's
we
right.
decided to push forward. The board authorized me to do what I could to try to get the bridge back open.
Okay.
That's what I've been doing.
All right.
So, I know Livingston and Germantown, I believe, are both considering the same thing.
Consider,
Yeah, I don't know, they haven't done it yet, I know
No.
the meetings are coming up. I'm sure Mr. Hamilton will be at the Livingston meeting to discourage them, but they're certainly going to be doing the same thing, to, take the poll to the board and vote on, what they think move forward as well, so.
Thank you.
But, all right, I appreciate it again, everybody coming out tonight.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
No popcorn,
Yeah, no snacks.
no snacks.
Carry on.
I knew we should have kept it to last, we would have had an audience.
Well, we do have snacks, we're just not gonna share. That's what I'll tell you
Good night.
Good night.
I'll see you soon.
Well, I sure know how to clear a room, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Okay, moving on to the next, on the agenda, we have the Commons Road signs. We brought this up last month, or maybe 2 months ago, that Commons Road, I believe Chris Nolan was actually in here, a former board member, asking us to review the signage on Commons Road. I had the county highway department come down here, the sign department, assess the road. They did find several recommendations they had to improve the signage on the road. It'd be about 16 different signs apparently. I reviewed this with Highway Superintendent Jim Potts, and he agreed that, a lot of these signs need to be updated. He's working on it slowly throughout the town. He does several a year, but these would be the highly reflective signs, the new ones. And he agreed that he would be able to probably go through and do most of this work. The cost from the county was $1,305.41, and that was just material cost. And Jim told me that he feels that he could probably go through, obviously he's not going to save any money on material, but he could go through and update some of these as he's doing the rest of his updates, and add some of the additional signage that they feel is needed. So rather than have the county go through with doing this all at once, I think we could maybe have him incorporate it in his updates and start slowly improving the signage on the road. So I guess that's where
Wouldn't it be better to let the county do it, since then we don't have to have our labor expended?
It would be if you wanted to go through and do every single thing on here. I don't think Jim said that probably every one of these is needed, highly needed. Certainly some of it's recommendation speed, additional speed in the signs. He says he would certainly got to work it into his schedule unless we want to go ahead and spend the $1,300 up front and let them do it. I mean, that's an option, but we could do
So
it
you're
much
saying
slower.
that would get done over a period of years rather than one shot?
He could go ahead and do the curve signs and stuff that was, brought to our attention that should be done right away, and do the update on the speed limit signs as he's doing the rest of them. He doesn't have to actually have the highly reflective signs done for a number of years, but he's doing slowly throughout the town.
Okay.
So he'd be able to pick out the ones that were the important ones and start with that, and then add, as he's doing the rest, just work it in.
So it'll be the same,
It'd probably be the same
But
material
over a
cost, but
period of time.
over the year, next few years. So I think that would probably be sufficient. I don't have a problem with that. He didn't have a problem with that. And, unless we want to just go ahead and do it all, I think that's probably the best way to space it out. Let him absorb it into his budget, actually, so.
Yeah, we already have it scheduled, so might as well.
Okay.
Sounds good.
If Mr. Nolan comes back in, we can at least say we addressed it, and it's going to be on the list to be taken care of over the next few years. So,
Did Jimmy indicate anything in particular that he wanted to address immediate, or he's
Well-
just going to put this into his,
he's going to do some of the recommended curve signs where I think most of the conversation was where the speed curves are there. The speed limit signs, again, the high reflective ones, they don't need to be done right away. And there's one marks an intersection above or coming up, in which he said that, that's a minor thing if you need on that road. But he said there's some that really aren't high priority, and then the other ones that were more priority would do first. So,
okay. Yeah, that's sort of where I was going with it.
Yeah, he was gonna
Something that's a
prioritize.
high priority, probably shouldn't be put off
Right.
until later. It should probably be addressed sooner.
If it's a matter of replacing some of the curved arrow ones with a high reflective, again, they're not, doesn't have to be done immediately. I don't think that's a high priority. So,
Okay.
that's what he's gonna do, is work it as a priority schedule.
Okay.
So, I think it's sufficient, I mean, for what we need to do over there. Main thing is get the curves marked down and marked up to, you know, on that one section there that was really bad.
Right.
Okay. All right, moving on. New business resignation. Mary read the resignation of Councilman Kale. Again, we certainly appreciate his years of service and you know, everything he helped us out with on the board. We're going to miss him, but certainly understand you know, his reasoning, and you know, I'd like to wish him well. And we're going to turn around and open up and advertise. I don't know, advertise or post it on the door, and hopefully the word of mouth will get out there that we have a vacancy on the board that the town board will be filling as an appointment. I'd like to give at least to the next meeting, I guess, a month's time for people to show interest. Let us know if they're interested in the board appointment, and we'll certainly set up an interview after the November meeting. So we can have, you know, a month's time for the word to get around, people see it on TV, and we'll post it on the door and put it on the website and see, you know we have 2 people interested already in a position, and we certainly will interview anybody that's interested and make the appointment probably not until the end of the year, fill it for the first of the year, so it's a 1-year appointment until the next election cycle, which will be next year's election. So again, anybody knows anybody, mention it to them, but we'd certainly want to hear by the November 3rd town board meeting.
I think it
Anybody that's
would be
interested.
good to make the appointment at least in December so that the new person can take part in the reorganization.
Which we could do, yes. We'll do it, maybe we do it in the year-end meeting at the end of December, so it starts January 1, or maybe, you know, I would like to see it start
And
January
be
1.
involved with our review of policies and things, so as much for their education as for, you know, input.
Absolutely. So we'll do that in the December meeting or year-end meeting, so it takes effect January 1st, so the new board member will be here January 1st. So again, let's put it out there for November 3rd. We'd like to hear from anybody that's interested, and we'll set up an interview after that, an interview period for whoever's interested. Okay, 2015 budget review. I have the printed copy, finally, I received at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We had a problem printing the tentative budget off of the computer I used because my Apple iPad is not compatible with the Windows software apparently, so some of the numbers would not print, so we finally have the final version printed. Just a few things I want to point out to the board. There was a couple changes made, nothing with the money figures, but the positioning of where they went. And I actually went through and put page numbers on the bottom to make this much easier for everybody. So if you flip to page 2, the first change that I want to point out is additional column that's been added, which is the middle column, the 5 columns at the top, the less appropriated reserve column. That's where we did not have that in there before, but we added this for bookkeeping purposes, so I'm told from the bookkeeper. The $30,000 that we budgeted for the highway garage additional building that we're thinking about doing, you have to budget it as an input from the reserve column. So we wanted to put in a separate column for that shows the $30,000 coming from reserves. So it's separated. So that's the first one. This is all having to do with that same $30,000. If you turn to page 6.
Can we go back to page 1 first?
Page 1.
I'm confused with this. Is tax to be raised minus 72%? I mean, our taxes are going down 72%?
That's great.
That's great, isn't it? That's only because of the way we figured the fund balance difference. If you see that, you know, last year we had $2,480, but we just changed the amount of fund balance that's going to be coming out of that account. So it's now $680 instead of, where is it? 680.
Between highway and general, it evens out to 0.
Yeah, we're doing 680 instead of 24, but now if you go down to, the difference is down there, 1,800 less, it's 1,800 more, so that's why it equals up to 0.
Okay, so we're going to decrease by 72% the general and increase by 1%, and that's going to balance out.
That's because of the difference in the size of the money. You're only talking 2,400 and talking 100,000. So the percentage is much different, but the amount is the exact same.
Thank you. That just kind of jumped out at me.
So just to back up,
Reduce taxes by 3/4.
This budget includes absolutely 0 increase. Just so everybody's aware, even though Bob threw these numbers out there, there's no increase to the taxpayers. Our budget is flat. Just to want to make sure everybody's aware of that. actual assessed taxable value decreased in the town from 216,525 down to 208. So that's why you'll see the actual tax rate per thousand went up a little bit.
Actually, if you look at this, says that.
Yeah, the tax levy is 0 increase, but the actual taxable rate per thousand went from 48.30 cents to 50 cents, 50.06 cents. Again, your taxes will be unaffected by this. It's just because the actual value of the town went down, but nobody, there is no increase in the tax dollars to the residents. Okay. Back to explain the rest of this adjustment for the reserve column, page 6. You'll see under garage, about midway down the page, garage heading, a line was entered in for the actual garage equipment shed, it says. You don't have a very good copy, but you see that? Yeah, it's equipment shed, and it was added 5132.2S. So that's where we have the funds designated for that account, for that garage if we do it. And it's $30,000, so that column's moved over to there. So we reduced what we had it under before because we don't want to have its own actual line item. And then to keep it straight.
You might want to, or is that what you're getting to know, where it's coming from? You might want to mention where that's coming from, because we have money that has been set aside for that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. Okay, well, that's where I was going to get to the next one.
Okay. All right.
And then if you go to page 11, that $30,000 additional cost is all the way down at the bottom. Appropriated reserves, we actually added the column and spelled it out. Remember, we just plugged that number in on the interfund transfers because we didn't have the columns. He actually entered the columns for the appropriated reserves from the building reserve, $14,000, and the Con Ed reserve, $16,000 equals the $30,000. So that's specifying where we're getting that money that's going to go into the budget. It's coming out of those two accounts for the $30,000 if we proceed with that shed that we've talked about. The money's budgeted. If we need it, it's there. If we don't, we don't use it.
$14,000 from building reserve is from when we did the addition to the town garage, which came in under budget. So sometimes capital projects do come in under budget.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And so that was left over from that. And the $16,000 from Con Ed reserve is money that was given to us from Con Ed, specifically intended for recreation and or infrastructure.
Correct.
And can't be used for anything else anyway, so that's where that's coming from.
Absolutely. So that's the only changes that we have from what we worked on. We'll go over the budget in more detail. I'll highlight the increases, decreases at the public hearing. But at this point, I think, that's nothing else has changed. The numbers are the same. So I'd like to, ask that we adopt.
I had some suggestions. If you remember last time, our budget, what we're taking from fund reserve is about $84,000, and previous budgets had been $60,000 on the order.
Yes.
And so I'd taken it on myself to see if there was any way we could try to get what we take out of the fund reserve out of our savings down to a number that was similar to the last couple of years where we've broken even. Because this budget we might end up actually taking out of our reserves compared to the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a cut at that. I'm going to make some suggestions. And if we did them all, then we'd get all the way down to that 60,000, which meets up with the previous years. If we don't, maybe some of these the board will accept, others they might not. But I'd like to throw them out there and get your opinions.
Okay, just to let everybody know what you're talking about. Last year, what we appropriated the fund balances was, on the front from last year, was around $60,000 in that neighborhood. I said the exact number. $60,600 we appropriated out of the highway and general fund combined to make up the difference in the tax levy that we were not raising by taxes. So out of that $60,000 last year, we actually didn't take any out of the highway or any out of the general and very little out of the highway or vice versa. We actually ended up almost breaking even, so we didn't actually use any of that $60,000 we budgeted because of the conservative spending and the extra revenues that came in. So this year...
Now, do we know that? Because we're not at the end of the year yet, right?
Well...
That's right.
You're projecting that?
I'm projecting, no, I'm sorry.
That was
Thanks for correcting me. The
2013.
previous year, we did that, and we actually broke even.
Okay.
This
Okay.
year, we actually have $60,000 budgeted, 600 budgeted, but we do not know as of yet, you're correct. We will be using probably all of the highway fund budget because of the fact that they went over so bad this past winter. And there's no doubt, I mean, we're gonna be over budget, so we probably will use most of that. And the general, again, I don't think, we're probably gonna have a portion of that left, but not all of it, so we will be spending some of that out of the fund balance.
Okay.
But in the new budget we're presenting, we're expected to take $84,000 out of the fund balance combined. So that's mainly because we boosted up most of the highway appropriations. And if we go through it, I mean, you'll see when we go through the budget hearing, you know, because of the rough winter, you know, the fuel went all over quite a bit, so we're projecting more for fuel next year. Sand and salt, obviously, with the rough winter, they used way more than we had budgeted. And the snow removal line, brush and weeds, which is the fuel, machinery was actually okay, but again, the improvements was raised as well. So most of the increases are in the highway budget.
Yes.
So for us to make these cuts, I'm curious to hear what you came up with, but that's why we actually increased the extra $20,000 this year out of fund balance to make up those increases for highway. But I'm certainly interested to see what you come up with.
So, my take is that if we can get to that 60,000 number, then we stand a decent chance of not rating the savings. And I think we've done really good the last couple of years that I've been on the board anyways, and I don't really know the history before that. But the more fund balance we can keep, the better we're going to be prepared if we hit another downturn like in 2007, 2008. So I think that if possible, it's kind of our fiscal responsibility to try to preserve that. So that's where we're coming from. So first one was the planning board contractual. We have 8,000, the number is 8020.4. And currently we're giving them 5,000. Most of this is spent for the lawyer who sits in on every planning board meeting, and when there's a question, the planning board asks the lawyer a lot of times to get input. And sometimes you do need a lawyer, but my feeling is, and I've brought this up a couple different times, that...
Can we just take one break? Excuse me for 1 second. Sure. I'm sorry. Can we just take a break?
Lawyer and engineer.
An engineer, but it's mostly going to the lawyer. The engineer sits and it doesn't bill his time unless he's needed. And when he does bill his time, it goes to whoever's before the board.
But that is a decimal.
Yeah. The total 5,000 is not all to the lawyer, but it's maybe 4 types of it or something.
What number did you say?
80/20.
8020.4.
Like the 6th or 7th page.
Yeah, page 7.
Planning is on, the word planning is on page 7, but all the numbers are on page 8.
Page 8.
I apologize, I have to leave. My daughter's had an accident. She's going to the hospital. So, Bob, you want to finish up the meeting? The only thing I had left was to adopt the preliminary budget. You got 3 of you, so, you know, even if you have changes you'd like to make, maybe we can at least agree on adopting the preliminary budget tonight, and then, you know, consider those changes. And set the public hearing date, which you have on the agenda. Okay.
What's the date? Is that at our next meeting?
At our next meeting, if you want to make it for
At 7 or earlier?
6:45.
Okay.
Hope everything's okay.
Yeah, just got her stitches in her eyes.
I'll leave this in your box.
Please, thank you.
November 3rd, right?
Yes, November 3rd.
All right, so
So I I'm putting out possible cuts, and I'm kind of I'm being bold, and we can decide whether it's too bold or not to hit it at all, but I think for a starting point, I might as well start with bold cuts that would hit the 60,000 that I was aiming for. So the contractual, there's 5,000 in there that goes mostly to the lawyer, but also some to the engineer as needed. My view is that the planning board, if they need to consult a lawyer on every option, every case that's brought before them, then they're not really doing their job. And so I would like to cut that to 2,500 total. That's a 2,500 cut. And you know, if the planning board members feel that they can't do that, then maybe they don't deserve to stay on the board. Is my feeling. It's kind of a travesty that we spend so much to consult on every single time that a case comes before the board. So that's 2,500. Second one, we're gonna highway workers to do a raise was in our budget that we looked at in the budget workshop. My feeling has been that we don't have a policy of raises every year, and we've done something for the highway workers this past year by allowing them to cash in on their sick pay or sick days if they have reached the maximum amount that's allowed to be accrued. So in my view, that's already an extra benefit. So I would cut the raise for the highway workers, and that as a total comes to 2,445.
What the number is that?
That's 5110.1 in the highway budget.
That's 5110.1. That's
Yes.
just the highway superintendent's salary.
No,
Yes, I believe so. If you
in the highway side, it's the highway, the superintendent's salary is on the general budget.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're in highway. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the highway superintendent is separate,
So it's 5110.
0.1.
Okay.
And what did you want to take out of that? 20?
From the budget that it would be flat from last year. So it would be 75, 555. But compared to our tentative budget from the workshop, that's down 2,445.
So that's for the 2 full-time and part-time?
I think so, unless part-time comes out of the OT line. I'm not certain on that.
Yeah.
What page are you on there?
Page 12, sorry.
I'm not seeing the OT line either.
It's 5110.
.1, yeah.
Okay.
So that would just keep the salary as it was in the previous year.
It is.
Right. Do we want to have discussion on these as we go through them, or you just want to go through the
Whatever you
list,
guys
or-
want.
I kind of like the idea that Evan's going through everything to show us the full picture, and then I think maybe we should go back and discuss.
Cool.
Okay.
Number 3, parks contractual, line, this would be in the general budget, so flip back, 7110.41. And I think that's on page 7. We have 5,000 in there, and we haven't been spending that 5,000 the past couple years, and we've been doing really good on donations with the improvements that we've been putting into the park. So I was going to suggest that we cut that line from 5,000 to 2,500,
It's 7110.41.
7110.41.
Now, that money comes out of the recreation fees, I think, right? So that's,
it.
I mean, those are gonna just sit, isn't that right, Mary?
For Germantown, are you saying?
No,
that's
The
playground.
recreation fees that people pay when they have subdivisions. I think that's where we show that money as coming in the
No, and I don't
appropriations.
recall the account. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other for sure. If that's where that came from.
Let's see, we have a place where we have revenues.
Page 10. But I don't know that it says where they're going to. That would be 8/2001, I think is the code. We don't have anything budgeted for it. But I think that's income. It doesn't really show where the money is currently sitting. Oh, page 11, there's a parkland reserve line, just above the total estimated revenues at the, towards the bottom.
Okay, so there's 3,000 coming out of this, so we're actually only budgeting 2,000 from the
Okay.
general budget for the.
So maybe it makes sense to just, I could revise that to a suggested 2,000 cut, and then we're only using parkland reserve money.
Yeah,
What line was that on page 11?
On page 11, it's parkland reserve A 5031.2.
Okay.
There's 3,000 budgeted.
Okay, so with that 3,000, only cut the other to 2 possibly?
Yeah, if we're looking to just cut from what has to come out of reserves.
yeah, I'm not sure that we should, I mean, it's such a modest amount for the park that we shouldn't have some in there. I mean, it doesn't mean we have to use it if we continue to get donations like we've been getting.
Right.
But,
I'm just looking for ways that we can get down to the 60,000 or so, which is going to make it so we don't take out of our savings. But if we don't spend it, it's
if we don't spend it, it's not coming out anyway.
Right.
So,
Maybe it's,
well, we can continue, we can go.
next one, street lighting. We've talked about that as a board a number of times. Let's see, the line number is 5182.4.
What page you on?
5182.4 is on page 6, about the middle of the page. We're spending about $1,500 every year on the outdoors lighting, and we've talked about it a couple times as a board as to whether we really need all that many street lights out there. I mean, do we just need one pole on each side of the entrance to the town hall or something? So my suggestion was to cut that in half and then get in contact with the electric company about taking down these extra unneeded lights.
Which light specifically are you referring to?
Personally, I think we only need one on each side of the entrance here.
What do we have on here now, 4 or 5?
Yeah, should I get a walk outside?
Yeah. I want to say 5, but it might be 4.
Well, I think if it's four, you'd say you cut it in half, but there's two other streetlights also. There's one at the beginning of County Route 6, and there's one at Pleasantville and Lasher Road.
Okay.
And I think
Those
that's,
are included in that?
I think so, aren't they?
They're
Yeah,
included. They were before we even had these lights. That's
Yeah.
what we were paying.
I mean, that's the only actual street lighting that we have in town, as far as I know.
Right.
And these others are.
I had
come with
assumed
street
that they
lighting.
would have been on county because they're on the Route 9, but
No, the town pays for that. And the ones out here, they come under the street lighting budget, but they're not as much lighting the street as they are the area in here. And I agree with you that we could, at least, we've talked about getting rid of a couple of them.
right.
And I don't know, is it the power company owns those lights, right, Mary?
You know, I'd have to go back and see when we got them and see if, I think so, they must.
Yeah, 'cause I think that's the way it
They
shows
must,
on the
yeah,
bill,
yeah.
that we're paying for the,
Yeah, they must. We didn't purchase the lamppost
Yeah.
or anything like that, no.
the ones in
Not that I
front of the
remember.
community house.
That one is.
Those come on
Is
our
ours.
regular bill,
Yeah,
and those are ours.
that is.
And those streetlights out in front there are kind of expensive, I think. I mean, maybe we could put something up of our own there also and get rid of all of them. I don't know. I think there was a time that some people thought that would enhance the look of the historic look of the town hall. So I don't know. Is that right, Ray? You were on the board, I think.
That
when
was
this went up.
the intent,
Yeah.
but it was expensive at the time, and it still is. And I think we like rent them,
Right.
type of arrangement.
You know, I'm pretty certain you probably pay something every month for, as Ray said, like a rental, and then there's.
Yeah, there is. It's in, well, the rental includes the light.
Right,
Yes,
Okay, so we don't pay I don't think we pay a kilowatt hour fee on it. It's a set
I
fee.
don't know, the bills are in there. I couldn't tell you because I don't know that much about it. Electric.
275. Calculating. Just a reference number. Oh, yeah, 4 LM Coach 100 at a unit price of $24.25.
Per, right?
Yeah.
So it's 100.
And then there's an electricity charge on top of that, which is another
Oh, there is.
25.
Okay.
And then, I guess, a connection fee.
But I don't think there's a meter on those, right? For the electricity, that must be a flat rate also.
Yeah, there's no meter.
They have a number of kilowatt hours, but I don't know how they're
Could be
calculating it.
estimated.
Yeah.
Could be estimated.
It's a very even number of 260, so. yeah. So I'd like to see a decrease there, but I hadn't realized that we had other lighting that was feeding into that bill.
Yeah.
This bill, no, wait. I was just thinking, this invoice doesn't show other street lighting for the County Road 6 or Nevis, as far as I can tell. It's just a facility charge for 4.
It would probably have full numbers more than location if they're on there.
But I don't see it on the bill. There's an electricity delivery charge, which is $25. And then there's facility charges, which is 4 LM Coach 100.
Roadway, 150.
What is that? No, it's the
Two of those.
other page.
I think that would be the
Okay.
two.
Maybe we can't cut this down as much as I thought. But I think we should make some adjustment to the lighting.
Yeah, I think that's worth talking about, but, again, we're gonna need to, talk with the power company and
Yeah.
see what that's gonna entail. And, because they've charged us for 4, you said on there, I think I looked at that once before, I think there is actually 5 out there.
It says right up here, outdoor lighting is an unmetered service. Your delivery charges are based on an energy calculation utilizing the quantity and type of lighting facilities you have selected to use as referenced in the applicable tariff rate. So in that sense, what if we select to use a different bulb apparently it should require a revisit. If they're charging us based on something we selected, there may be alternatives. if nothing
Yeah,
else.
maybe we could select an LED light now or something.
Right. Well, that's why I say it may be worth revisiting.
Is that something, Mary, that you could get some information from them, or?
I could try. If I know what I'm talking about, which I don't, well, I can try.
Do you want to make a copy of this?
Uh-huh.
Bring it down, I'll show you what I was referencing.
You know the problems I've had with them before.
Up here, it's
I thought
indicating.
you're getting to be experienced with them.
And down here is talking about the 4,
These lights,
and
right?
this is what I've been pointing out. So if you get a copy of this, based on what it says here and here, maybe they can lead you with
Yeah.
more
Yeah, I
information.
guess the question is, are there other alternative light bulbs that would, like LEDs, that would be less electricity? And
You want to leave this out of the folder?
and what's the, what would it cost to eliminate 2 out of the 5 or 3 out of the 5 that are out in front?
We can talk about it after.
Yeah,
We don't have to
okay.
talk about it now at
All
the
right.
meeting.
Good. Good. All right.
The next one, Germantown Library, 7410.4. Which we send them $2,000. That's reduced from what we spent several years ago. I forget what it was, but I think we used to send them 5,000 or something.
I'm not sure that was true for the library, that was the park that we reduced.
Maybe it was just a park.
Yeah, because that used to be 6,000, then we went down to 4, and then we went down to 3.
We did cut the library.
We cut the library too?
Yeah, I don't remember
Okay.
exactly
What number
what
did
it
you
was.
say that was in?
Page 7, 7410.4.
Oh, 74.
In the library and the park, we're pretty much at a, bare bones.
Right.
uh,
So, for the park, we can't really cut the park and then expect them to still provide the park service to our residents. The library, if we cut it, I don't think it makes sense to just shave it back. I would say we could just drop it completely. There's no obligation that we have to send money to the park. We already have residents who are
The
being
library.
parked.
You mean the library?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the library. We could drop that. Residents are already paying into other libraries, Red Hook and Tivoli.
Not all.
Not all, but
The ones in the Red Hook School District are paying in
yeah.
to the other libraries.
We'll eliminate one double library taxation.
That's the Germantown School District Library.
Yeah.
The Germantown Library, which is mine.
I love libraries, so,
I know, me
But-
too.
but my feeling is, I think we have a higher obligation to try to not dig into our reserves than we do to the Germantown Library. And if we do better with revenues, then we could put it back in a subsequent year. So if we cut that, that would be 2,000. Then the last one I want to talk about is the Nevis Road repaving, which we had in our budget. That's some CHIPS fund and some of our own fund, line 5112. It should be on page 12. I drove the Nevis Road a couple times since our last workshop meeting, and really it's not in bad condition at all. I talked to several residents who drive on the road regularly, and all of them were completely shocked and flabbergasted that it was even on our work for the upcoming year, because it's really in very good condition compared to the surrounding roads. Lasher Road is kind of in the same situation that County Route 31 is. So
Lasher Road is a county road.
it is, yeah. So our town roads are doing a lot better than like county roads are, but Nevis as it is actually in good condition. It's not that it's in poor condition, but not as bad as others. It's in very nice
The reason
condition.
that our town roads are in good condition is because the highway department schedules them
Right.
over a period of time so that they all get taken care of on schedule.
And what I'm seeing from when I look at it is I think our schedule is too aggressive, at least in the case of Nevis Road. There's not any real reason that we need to get Nevis Road repaved in the next 2 years. It could be put out to 3 or 4 without danger. So,
Well, I think one of the reasons that the culverts were replaced a year ago.
right,
And so there's, and that's held up pretty well. But they were, and what Jimmy wanted to do when he did the culverts was to leave them go for a year to see if there's any settling or anything, and then pave over it to, to make it smooth, and then that will last for a long time.
right.
So I'm not sure that that's, and I know to get the CHIPS money, we used to have to match that. That's changed. I'm not sure. Ray would probably have a better idea.
Yeah, he was saying it's
Yeah.
not really tied anymore,
Yeah.
at least on the county level.
I guess I'm a little reluctant to, start second guessing the highway department. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, and the reason I say is because I know that this highway department is extremely frugal. And if you start chipping away and saying, well, if they don't do that this year, then it will be due for the following year, you may have to put that off too, and well, this one may appear to be in good shape and not need to be done, but you're messing with the schedule over time. So I guess I'd want to hear from the highway superintendent and see what he thought of that.
yeah, it would be good too. I don't think we're saying, just don't put anything into the roads, but if we split it out over 3 years instead of 2 as is currently planned, then that would save us plenty of money to get down to the 60,000 that I'm shooting for out of fund reserve, which would make it so that we probably wouldn't dip into our savings. And this budget, as it is, before my modifications, has everything that everybody asked for. And I think part of our job as town board is to look at what we have and what we'd like and see what we can provide, but also to put the brakes on a little bit to make sure that we continue and stay frugal. Not that this is overboard, but I think we could cut to that 60K figure that will keep us from dipping into our savings most likely. And we can do it without any real harm to the roads. Like I said, everybody I've talked to who's on that road is surprised that they're up for a paving. It's very smooth, very good.
So that's the last one you had?
That was the last one I had, and if we were gonna hit the 60-something figure, then that would be 15K out of those lines combined. But we could, we'd probably want to get the input from the highway guys, see what would be needed. if
Which
we
line
split
was
it
that
over
actually,
3.
you were taking the 15 out of?
I guess that would be the
the overall.
1112.2,
5112.
because we still want the CHIPS money.
That was it, 5112.2?
Yeah.
That was a reduction of how much?
I was saying 15,000, that's to hit the 60K that I'm looking for. That might not be, I think we need to have a discussion with the highway guys.
Yeah, that's
My-
almost one of those things where either we do it or we don't kind of thing, and, you know.
Right, my thought was, what's scheduled now is to pave half of Nevis Road, more or less. And if we say, instead of doing it in 2 years, we do it in 3, just look at what that is in materials. I think that's gonna be around 15K, because if I remember right, the total cost was basically these 2 lines combined. So,
Do we know how many miles, distance-wise? I mean, if we're doing half and half, I mean, is it?
I'm not certain how long Nevis is, actually.
Not sure.
3 point something, maybe 4 at the most is my guess.
I might have something on that.
I'm just wondering if it makes sense to, like you said, if you were to chop that down and say, let's do a third, and then a third, and then a third. Obviously, you may find a point where it doesn't make sense to do that exactly.
You're right.
You know, you may go under or over, depending on where you're starting
Sure.
from and what year it is.
Yeah.
I think that probably requires some discussion with,
It gives the distance and what was gonna be done, and
I looked on Google Maps and the Grand is halfway, so that makes me a bit shorter than I thought it was. 2.2 miles or 2.3 miles or something total. So if we take 15K out of that, it's still more than a third that could be paved.
But was there other work planned in that amount too?
Oh, sorry, the breakdown is 1.1 miles on Nevis Road, which is from Lasher to just past LeGrand, and the bill for that is 73,000. And then there were other repairs for stone on Hillsdale and Ford Road, which was 12,490, and then just other miscellaneous repairs which aren't broken up.
and there are other things that probably come out of that, like the gravel on that wouldn't be in the chips. I think that would just be for the blacktop that they use that gets reimbursed.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's
Because
done.
I don't think he puts everything under that 51.2.
The .2. Yeah, the blacktop probably comes out of chips, yeah.
It would be some part of that money, total. The rest of it is in other places, I believe. But that just shows you what mileage and what his thoughts were, I guess, what was gonna get done.
But the,
I mean, if he's going just, I don't remember exactly what it said, if that's just past
Just
LeGrand?
past LeGrand, yeah.
If
1.1
he goes just
miles.
before LeGrand, because there's an intersection and there may be more involvement there,
Yeah,
that may pull in what you're looking for,
right.
potentially. And then maybe the following year begin,
Right.
start at the intersection
Yeah.
and move forward.
And if we have a good year and we get more in income tax or something than we expect, then maybe it becomes a 2-year job anyways.
Right.
so we're talking about 85,490, is that what,
What's the .2, the 39?
well, the total amount, the 34, well,
Yeah.
he's got 39 there, this says 34. Oh, that's last year's.
Yeah, the last
Oh,
one
I'm
is
sorry.
85,
Right,
490 total.
39 and 46 is
85.
85,490. and you want to take 15 out of that,
Correct.
but most of that is going for Nevis Road, that's 73 out of the
Right.
85.
Do you think we're going to be scheduling another workshop?
Well, that was going through my mind,
Yeah,
Mary,
I just want to,
because I really would like to, I mean, since Ray is the budget officer, I'd like to hear what he has to say about all of these before I make any kind of decision. And on the highway one, I certainly would want to hear what Jimmy has to say.
Definitely.
So, I don't know,
What did he, Jimmy, have budgeted for just Nevis, the 1.1 miles?
73.
73?
see, I don't know what he has in mind for the follow-on years, which if we take some of that out and he doesn't do all of that, then he's got to do it, you know, if that's the next thing on his list, he's got to do that before he gets on
Right.
to the next road. And I know that since he's been highway superintendent, even before I was on the town board, he's had, you know, a long-range plan and schedule.
Right.
And that's why the town roads are in good shape like they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it might be tough to squeeze out 15,000 off of that. I'm thinking if he's going just beyond the intersection, and if we pull him just before the intersection. So I believe I'm like $6,600 for a tenth of a mile. So I'm assuming that intersection's
Yeah.
close to a tenth of a mile. It's probably a little more than that, but
Right. So it'd probably pull us back to partway between that and the next road or something.
yeah. So it wouldn't get us probably quite as close to the intersection as I was originally thinking. But again,
Well, anyways, that was all the ones that I had, and you know, my main goal there is that if we can stay where we're not pulling out of our reserves, then we have more if there's another downturn.
okay. I'm wondering if we should schedule a special meeting.
probably, because Raymond didn't get all this, so.
I'm not sure Ev and I have, well, I add up to 60,000. I'm not sure what I'm missing here. Can you just go through you have like six items?
So planning board contractual, I was 2.5.
Would a Thursday night be good for us?
Highway workers were at 2,445.
Well, maybe like in 2 weeks.
And then parks, we're looking at 2K. I had said 2.5 initially.
Oh, what was your, see, the street lighting throws another.
Yeah, that one we need to look at. It might.
What was your intent on that?
I was thinking we could cut it in half, because I was thinking of just those 4 or 5 lights out at
Publishing.
front. But it's looking like, maybe we
I'm just
get,
wondering if we have to.
maybe we get 500, but we have to really look at the electric companies, and what the options are there, I think.
You know, the library was
Yeah.
2K and this was 50.
Right.
Okay.
And,
Well, second
we can
Monday,
be flexible on those numbers if we talk with
does that give you time
Jimmy,
to
15 doesn't make sense, maybe we go
notice
with
it?
12.
Right, so you weren't coming up with a full 60, you were just,
Yeah.
If he's.
I think I was aiming to cut 24K total, and I think I fell slightly short of that.
okay.
I don't remember the exact sum, but I want to say it was 23 or
Actually,
something
it
like
was the
that.
4th Monday of September.
But that gets us into our 60-something, which was our last couple budgets.
If you want to go that
I didn't have
far.
a
Yeah, we didn't.
60K out of reserve, wasn't it?
When, does
Firm
the
number.
preliminary budget has to be done by when? I know we want it done tonight.
It doesn't have to be, I don't think there's a date for the preliminary.
Okay.
Um,
My feeling is I know what Evan is trying to do, and I certainly can appreciate that. But I think a large part of this is going to rest on the Jimmy Potts budget, and if we decide to pull the paving, we're probably not going to make a very significant impact.
If we don't do the paving, or?
Well, if we leave the paving as is and we look at the other
Yeah.
items, the impact is really fairly
It's
minimal.
fairly small, yes.
So I think it really rests on that, the paving. And if we feel the paving should move forward, then, I'm not sure that we really need to have a big discussion in another meeting on the budget, is my opinion.
Well, I'd like to hear what Raymond as the budget officer
yeah,
has to
absolutely.
say.
Yeah,
So I'd like to see if we could schedule something with him. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do also, Evan, but my first reaction is that it's kind of nickel and diamond an already austere budget. I mean, because we don't go overboard extravagant with budgets, and we even are even less extravagant with how we spend money.
Right.
So that's why we end up budgeting money to take out of reserve and then usually don't. Okay? So if this year, because of the extra expenses that we had because of the last winter, if we ended up taking a little bit out of reserve, that doesn't bother me too much at this point, because we've taken so little out of any time. And last winter was, we did deplete a lot of
Right.
sand.
I think Evan's making valid points,
Yeah,
and I think if we can cut back, we should.
yeah.
But I don't know if it's worth revisiting the budget. In other words, we may budget something, but we also can look at it and try to reduce the cost and not spend that budgeted money.
Right, we can. and
I
we-
think
we
like
do
Bob
that.
was saying, it's almost a nickel and diming on most of it. And at that point, we can look at saving that and cutting back and doing what we can there without.
Some of these should be done up front, I think. Like if you're gonna decide about the Germantown Library, we're probably gonna decide that at budget time. If we cut back on those lighting, street lighting, that can be done throughout the year more easily.
Right.
Yeah, the street lighting, we've talked about that before. I think we should look at that, either, reducing that down somewhat. I've talked with Ray about it, just the two of us, and we've determined that there's a couple lights that we probably don't really need. And each one of them is not a big expense, but over time it adds up.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, that we should probably try to do that. But some of the others, I mean, when you look at something like library, we're already done at bare bones. I mean, if you look at what Germantown spends on the library,
Right.
they spend a lot of money. I don't know if you know, Mary, if you remember how much, but I know Germantown spends a lot of money on the library, so we're,
I don't think they came
The
in
town
here,
of
did they?
Germantown,
Huh?
the town of Germantown puts a
Yeah.
lot into the
Yeah.
budget, but I don't know
yeah.
how much it is.
So, I mean, we're, at $2,000, it's almost a token gift already. Now, you can say, well, we don't need to make a token gift. I don't know, but, see, and I understand, and I've brought this up many times, about being in the Red Hook School District and paying for two library funds, and this Red Hook went up 175% this year.
Yeah.
And talked about that a lot of times, but at the same time, being realistic, the Germantown Library is the one I think that the Mid-Hudson Library Association or the state designates as the library for Clermont. So given that, I think we should make at least a minimal donation to them. The one that bothers me more is with the Red Hook School District, double dipping,
Right.
getting the school district to pay, and they also make the town pay. that's been voted on, but the voters voted in. Not with my help. I shouldn't have did that on camera. But I'm not sure that we should, to save $2,000 out of what's the total budget is up with all of, around 600,000.
Yeah.
Again,
Not what we're raising on taxes, but that,
Right, yeah.
I don't know what Lasher looks like, but if we feel that that's worth revisiting and talking with Jimmy, then we could do that, and I think that would be the.
Lasher's not, that's a county road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Nevis.
Nevis, okay, I'm
Nevis
sorry.
Road, yeah.
Yeah, I confuse those two.
Yeah, I mean, Lasher, we've gotten county roads done, County Route 6 and County Route 8. Ray's been after that as well, and they're in pretty good shape, I think, but that one,
Well, County Route 8 was just done, right? That was.
yeah, County Route 6 was done a couple of years ago,
Okay.
or a year ago, wasn't it, Mary?
Couple now.
Yeah. So the Clermont piece of that is, the Columbia County road. Is the Dutchess County part, is that better?
For Lasher,
Yeah,
it is, it's not great, but
Yeah.
it's better.
but I don't know where that is on their schedule, but again, that's not our
Yeah.
concern. Our concern is,
I don't remember, I haven't been on it in a while, but I did drive on it when all the culvert pipes were done, and I didn't think the road was in that great of shape, was my opinion. But I haven't been on it lately to see the final things
Yeah.
that were done on it, so I don't really know.
I mean, when I drive on it, I think this is great for a Columbia County road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a town road, but for a road in Columbia County, it's
Right.
above average.
how about if we, I'll talk to Ray, and are you guys available on the second Monday or the third Thursday of October? That's the,
Yeah,
what is that, the 19th? I can't-
12th or the 20th, or the 17th.
17th will be the Friday.
Oh,
That
yeah,
would-
you're right.
yes,
16th, 12th or 16th. No,
12th is on Sunday,
I keep reading this wrong. 13th.
13 through 16, is that what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Did you say the third Thursday?
Yeah,
That's DA night. Courts, both courts.
so are they here late then?
They could be, we don't really know. Both judges would be here at 5, but we don't know. It's the unknown
Because they're usually out by 6 or something,
now,
right?
but with the DA's office here, you don't know.
Okay.
Depends on how many cases they have, or none.
Yeah,
We could use the community house if that was the only day that worked.
yeah.
I wouldn't be able to attend.
Oh, right.
I'm
So you're
here.
thinking
If
of
I'm
it.
here, I can still, do my part of my job.
Are you thinking of the 13th, Bob?
Well, that was, what I wanted to check with Ray and see what his availability is.
Okay, I thought maybe you already knew, and that's why you were.
No, I didn't, because I didn't, I found out at the same time as you guys did that he had to leave. So that wasn't,
Or maybe-
No, I wasn't suggesting that
No.
you knew he was going to leave. I just thought you knew that he had some available time and you were aware of it.
I know, he often comes in on Thursday nights,
Okay,
and Monday, see, the 20th is fire commissioners. I mean, if we
Right.
did that one, we could go in the other room. I guess what I'd like to do is, what I was trying to do was see what your availabilities were. I mean, my availabilities on Thursdays and Mondays is basically open. There are things I do on those alternate Mondays occasionally, but they're not things that I'm committed to.
yeah.
I can make either Mondays or Thursdays.
All right, so why don't we'll get in touch with Ray, and see what his availability is, and also, first question is, does he agree that, or I can convince him that we need another budget workshop to go over this?
I would like to have some, whether it be Ray or if we, could somehow get some information from Jimmy with regards to Nevis.
Yeah, no, I can talk
Because
to, I can talk to Jimmy and get that information,
Okay.
but we still need to, if we're gonna make a decision on it, we need to get back together.
Well, I think if Jimmy is strongly opposed to waiting another year, or if he doesn't think that he can cut it down and do partials,
Right.
now, I suppose I could just drive the road myself and see, not that I have Jimmy's experience, but I can give an opinion, my own opinion anyway, like Evan does,
Yeah.
and also get Jimmy's input.
Yeah.
But I'd like to bring that in and, you know, have him say, well, you know, these are the problems that are here, and if we let it go too long, you know, he may have some information like that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have that opportunity for him
Yeah,
to speak
it
up.
may also be that it's his long-term schedule, that if we upset that, then it upsets something else, and it may be that he wants to do this because he did the culverts. He
Right.
wants to get that done, and then it will last a long time.
That's what I'm saying, because of the work that he
And
did.
there may be a
it
road
reduce the problem.
that actually is in worse shape, but it's okay for another year, but not another 2 or 3 years. So if we push this out, then we're really pushing on other roads rather than his, and I don't know that to be the case.
Right, right. And that's why I think it's important to get
Yeah,
his feedback on
yeah.
it.
But
But I do think that's the bulk of
That's the
any
majority,
changes.
yeah.
So, you know, if that doesn't pan out, then I think, like Bob said, the rest is just sort of nickel timing, and we could probably certainly look at something and maybe cut back on it.
Yeah. We like to, with the lawyer at the planning board, we talked about that last month also a little bit. And suggestion was to talk to Larry and have him, rather than restrict him on what he can do, is to ask him to be a little more judicious, that if he doesn't think he's gonna need the lawyer because he knows what's coming up, then to not have him.
Yeah, but I brought this up a couple times previously, and as far as I can tell, there hasn't really been a change. I don't know if that's really been communicated to the board.
Well,
I've
there
brought it
have
up here
been a couple
several
of times over the years that because there wasn't anything, right? Or
Right.
that
Right.
they told him not to come.
Right.
But maybe you could do more of that, I don't know.
And maybe that requires education of the planning board members too. That in this initial year, you couldn't realize that savings because maybe there's a requirement for them to have more education so that they feel more confident.
But they already do some education. It might be they do need more.
Or maybe specific education.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of education opportunities, but if there's something more specific where they lean on the lawyer and, or the engineer and.
I know in other towns, one experience was when they were doing the Hannaford hearings in the planning board in Red Hook. They, and I don't know if they still do, but it wasn't just for Hannaford, it was that they routinely had a consultant, which I don't know that he was an attorney, but he was was a professional, and he was there as a consultant, and it was a routine thing for them to do that. We get our consultant kind of from the attorney and the engineer. So it's not uncommon for that, and particularly in small towns. You know, but it's worth talking about again, Evan. I'm not, you know, I think it's good to have the discussion. And that
So
way.
we can decide maybe once we get Raymond's schedule, because he's
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine if, Bob, if you send me an email.
Yeah. I will.
We'll do
Yeah,
that.
I'm
We'll do that.
fine with it.
And I'll type these up and put them into something that's
Okay.
readable.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some notes on it, so I could probably reference back through it, but yeah, if you want to do that, it'd be a lot
All
more
right, so let's plan that. We'll talk to Raymond and you know, we can summarize, or if you get that out as an email to him, show him what it is, And he may have some thoughts on that maybe we don't need it, but I think his intent for tonight was to approve the tentative budget. The tentative budget is tentative, so it can still be changed, and we could do that even at the time of the hearing. But I would think if we're, I would be more comfortable if we had another a workshop with Raymond involved and decide before the November meeting.
Yeah.
And I would also be more comfortable if we get the information from Jimmy, see what he thinks, and probably Larry as well. So, we'll see what his thought is.
I agree. I think we should probably have Ray involved.
So we're going to definitely set the public hearing though for November 3rd at 6:45.
Yeah, I think we need to do that,
Okay,
right?
yes,
That
that
needs to be
We
done.
need to do that.
Yeah.
I believe you can vote on the preliminary budget the night of your workshop if that's,
Okay.
and then goes forward. But we do need time in between so that I can put that in the paper.
For
You're not
the
changing-
workshop.
We're
right.
not changing the salaries of the elected or
No, not of the
or
elected, right.
Jim's or who else is
The only-
the assessor. It was just the part-time, full-time.
Well,
I think Jim
Possibly.
was getting a raise too, I thought.
I didn't touch that.
Okay, so, because that.
Because he gets a raise and the highway guys get the cash out for their sick days.
Okay, so that should be all right. I can still advertise it for the, because I have to list the
Yeah, the other
salaries.
thing that we had talked about, if you remember when we went through that budget, was increasing the vacation time, and that was kind of the reason that we said, well, we won't do that, and we would give them a small increase. So,
Yeah, I don't think we'd ever really talked about vacation time all that much. I mean, it was brought up
not
maybe
a lot,
twice.
no, it was brought up, I brought it up,
Yeah.
I don't, but then said, well, let's not do that, but give them a small increase. It is, 1.5% is pretty small. But anyway, like I said, I would like to consider those again, but I would like to hear Raymond's input. And, so we'll try and see if we can, set up a date, and Mary will let you guys know when and get it advertised. And it would be a workshop and meeting to discuss any town business as we usually word it, so that way we can approve it. All right, so we set the public hearing, and do we want to approve the tentative budget tonight, or we're going to wait on that?
I'd prefer to wait.
I would prefer to wait as well. I think Ray wanted that, but I think at this point we should wait.
Okay. Do we want any additional discussion on the bridge that was, we had some people talk to us about that tonight. I mean, it's,
I would like to, I mean, there are people who want that reopened, and honestly, I've got I'm going to go back through in a little more detail in the report, but I've heard a lot of reasons why we could spend money in better ways, but someone in the audience mentioned, what are the reasons to keep it open? But I didn't hear really reasons to close it, keep it closed, other than they just don't want it.
yeah,
So,
I
I mean,
thought,
it's really let's present the reasons and for and against, and I really, other than a room full of people who didn't want it reopened, and really tax purposes and, reasons that they felt it shouldn't be closed. I didn't hear straightforward reasons. And I would like to hear the pros and cons. And like I said, I'm going to reread this in a little more detail. There may be something more in it.
maybe we can spend a few minutes, if we have a workshop, then we can
Yeah.
That'll be a meeting to discuss any other town business as well, so we can discuss that again.
And hopefully, anybody who watches the video or knows that, you know, we had a room full of people opposed to reopening it, maybe they'll come forward with reasons why they want it reopened.
Well, I have talked to a number of people over the last week or so, and they have enthusiastically asked to have it kept open. It wasn't just, you know, well, yeah, it'd be nice, but no, I want it open, is the impression from most of them. And there were a couple that were kind of on the fence, didn't really matter, but most of them wanted it open.
I kind of feel like we had an infrastructure put into place, and now because it fell apart, we want to just say it's best. I don't know. I'd like to assume that the infrastructure was put in place for a reason, and if it's maintained, it would remain in place. So, from my perspective, I'm more in favor of maintaining our infrastructure rather than letting it fall apart and say, well, we didn't need it anyway.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Chris. I think we should, you know, the county should maintain the infrastructure that we have. And you know, rather than becoming a rule that every time a bridge has a problem, you're going to close it, you know, it should be put in a plan.
Not to say that it can't happen where there's more benefit in closing it. It's possible.
Yeah.
But I think I lean more towards the infrastructure was put in place and we should maintain it.
Okay.
But, you know, if there's enough legitimate reasons to leave it closed, then, you know, so be it.
All right.
I guess the 700,000 to $1 million that could be saved is kind of probably the biggest thing from a taxpayer perspective, except that's all just in a bridge fund. So if it doesn't get spent here, then it gets spent somewhere else.
Yeah, and actually, there's been a couple of things that were sort of misinformation. If you've been reading the papers, they said that there's $100,000 plus, a little bit more for the design. That design contract is what they were going to award, and then it got pulled back. That was actually for 2 projects. About 60,000 of that was for that bridge, and the other 40,000+ was for something else, and I'm not familiar, I don't remember what it was, but there was actually 2 projects in there, so that was a little bit of misinformation. And to continue rounding up to $1 million, the expectation of the design process was that it will come in under the 740. Right? And there would be some expense to closing it permanently. So if you subtract that off, then your net cost is less. Right? So I believe that the net cost will be closer to $500,000 than to $1 million. Now, 740 total is closer to $500,000, but it's still a little, you know, more than I'd like to spend. But hopefully it would be less than that as well.
Yeah.
Right, so
If it was a town bridge that we had to pay for between Clermont and Livingston, it would be really hard to justify at $250,000 expenditure. But
And I think when you look at the bridge budget that the county has, that would be a little closer to home. We'd have a little more control over that. And I think that could impact taxes. But in this case,
But, you know, all of the bridges between towns, I believe, are basically county bridges.
Right.
And there's a lot, and I don't know, maybe even the others that are county bridges, and that's been something that's been going on for a long time. And they have to put them in, you know, in sequence and do them as they need, but there should be an intent and a plan to maintain the infrastructure, not just get in the habit of, well, every time a bridge goes bad, you know, well, it'll just be close it, and, you know, there's a lot of money spent in the county on many other things as well, and there's places to save money, which Raymond's been trying to get done for years, and they don't.
I'd also be interested if the bridge were to remain closed and Craig Finger, of course, donated his property to create a proper turnaround, what kind of liability or cost would be directed to the town rather than the county? And we may find something that the town is responsible for that we were not prior to this.
Yeah.
And that's just a point I'd like to, you know.
That might be a question that Raymond could answer also.
Yeah.
So why don't we, yeah, we'll try and schedule some kind of a workshop and a special meeting and discuss these things. All right. Anything else, or we'll move to pay abstracts?
That's what I'm shooting for.
Okay, go for it.
I'll make a motion that we pay the highway abstract. Let's see. Vouchers 101 through 117 for the amount of $34,094.27.
That's abstract number 10?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, abstract number 10.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
I move we pay general abstract number 10, vouchers 256 through 283, in a total of $6,652.80.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Trust and agency?
Yeah, trust and agency number 2. Claim number 3, one on there. In the amount of $730.40.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So passed. Public comment?
Time to go home.
Huh?
Time to go home.
We already had public comment already, didn't we?
I thought maybe Dawn had something to say about the bridge too, but
No.
no, all right. Move, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.